Hi friends, before we start today's topic of discussion, let me briefly introduce myself. I am Dr. Azim Abbasi. I am from Delhi and I graduated from Maulana Azad Medical College in 2006, and since then I've been following my passion of implant dentistry. So today's topic is immediate implants. It is defined as placement of implant into alveolus of extracted teeth or tooth immediately after extraction. So conventionally what we do is we extract tooth and then we wait for some time, and then we enter again, place implant, let it heal, and then comes the phase of tissue manipulation and final processes. So today's topic will cover advantages of immediate implantation, selection criteria for it, armamentarium, disadvantages if there are any, and we'll discuss some cases. So advantages. Sorry. The biggest advantage as per me is single surgery. Someone walks into our office with a fractured tooth, we take the tooth out, and if the extraction socket meets the right criteria for immediate implantation, we go ahead, we place implant, we graft the socket, and we provisionalize. This reduces the overall healing time. This helps in preserving our soft and hard tissue, and we can better deliver immediate aesthetics. Psychological well-being of patient is taken care of, and this in turn increases case acceptance and revenues. So case selection. Is it possible to place implant in every type of extraction? Theoretically, yes, it is possible with some amount of other processes involved, but practically, no. As per the recommendation of, as per Tarnow's recommendation and as per other people who have done a lot of work on this topic, there are some criteria, there are some recommendations. So how to select a case? As we are dealing with science here, so there has to be rules, there has to be certain guidelines and principles to be followed. So it would become easy if we divide the whole topic into anterior socket and posterior sockets. Anterior sockets, as per Tarnow's classification, can be divided further into type 1, type 2 and type 3. Type 1 sockets are the ideal sockets where we have abundant amount of soft tissue, where we have intact buccal bone or buccal plate. Type 2 is the socket where we have adequate amount of soft tissue but we don't have, or we have partial buccal bone. Type 3 is the socket where we neither we have soft tissue nor we have buccal plate. So Boozer and Tarnow's recommendation, immediate implantation recommendation in aesthetic zone. Type 1, yes. Thick biotype, yes. Thin biotype, with some amount of manipulation we can convert it into thick biotype, so yes. Type 2 and type 3, no. There are some other guidelines. This is also from Botticelli, Boozer and ITIA guidelines. Low lip line, low aesthetic value, thick gingival prototype or morphotype, where recession of 1 mm is acceptable. This is a very valid point. Before we start a case, I think we should put this point well across to patient that the final processes might be slightly longer than your adjacent tooth, because no matter what we do and how good we do, these things do happen. The recession, soft tissue recession, hard tissue recession, it does happen. So we should not overpromise anything to the patient. Intact buccal wall, it is a cardinal rule. I mean, it is something which we need. We cannot work without it. Maintain a jump cap of at least 2 mm. Fill the jump cap as far as apically as possible. This is one of the concept of dual socket grafting, which we'll be discussing later. So as implant dentists, we live by these three, live and die by these three rules, I'll say. Tissue is the issue, bone sets the tone, and plate sets our fate. So ideally we require a type 1 socket. In order to achieve long-term maintenance and of good aesthetics, we need to preserve buccal bone. It is very important. And we should understand that our buccal bone has three sources of blood supply: periodontal, periosteum, and marrow. So when we I'm sorry. So when we extract a tooth, the periodontal blood supply is taken away. That is the main source of blood supply for this socket. We are taking that away. And if we wait, this is going to collapse. The buccal bone is going to collapse. The more we will wait, the more it will collapse. Principles to be followed is atraumatic extraction. There is no ifs and buts about it. We need to use periotomes, fine periotomes. We need to have lots of patience while taking these roots out, because at times in my practice I have seen it takes me longer to extract these roots than placing implants. So patience is the key. No flaps. The moment we raise a flap, we are taking away another source of blood supply. So no flaps. Thorough curettage. We need to debride the socket. There has to be no active infection left in the socket. 3D spatial positioning of implant. Horizontal soft tissue thickness. Maintain it. Dual zone socket management. And provisionalization. It is very important. These steps need to be followed. For a atraumatic extraction, we need certain amount of armamentarium, maybe a good long shank burr like this, which is from Comet. Periotomes, various set of periotomes, they come in various shapes. This is Tatum's periotome, one of the best instrument one can have, and a good quality extraction forceps, because gone are the days when we used to use extraction forceps for extracting teeth or tooth. Now extraction forceps are only for picking the root tip or tooth out of the socket, not pulling it out of the socket. 3D spatial position, as per Grunder et al. Recommendation, it is defined as placement should be slightly palatal to a line bisecting the buccal lingual position of definitive restoration with a cingulum sagittal angulation. So in short, it means when we place an implant, we should place it in a manner that the access hole should come out from cingulum, so that it is easier for us if we want to screw retain the crown. Plus aesthetic outcome, and if we place our implant too buccally, it will lead to buccal bone resorption. So we have to maintain that distance. 3 to 4 mm apicocoronally from the soft tissue crest. We have to place our implant in a manner that it is apically 4 mm from the soft tissue crest. And there has to be a distance of at least 1.5 mm between the implant and adjacent teeth. Optimizing aesthetic in central incisor implant. This is a case, it's an old case. Patient walks into our clinic and he just pops his tooth out and says, "Sir, I got this tooth, or I got this crown some 3 months back done, and now it comes off every week it is in my hands." So we explain everything to this patient, what has to be done, what needs to be done. So the challenges I was facing with this patient was, he's a very socially active person, he's a controlled diabetic, is kind of a local Netaji, and he will not walk out of my practice without anything fixed in his mouth. He will not walk with a RPD, he doesn't want anything removal. So challenges from the start was difference in level of soft tissue, as you can see on your screen, discrepancy in crown shapes, and patient want the ditto copy of existing restoration. So let's start. Steps to be followed is same: atraumatic extraction, palatal osteotomy preparation, dual zone grafting, and provisionalize. So we start with extraction. This is periotome in action. So the way we use periotome is, we should wedge it between the bone and the periodontal space and apply apical force. It pops the tooth out, and we avoid using it on the buccal side because bone is really thin. So we always use it on a plate which is thicker, on a side which is thicker. So it is palate in case of maxillary, and lingual plates in cases of mandibular. So out it comes, intact socket. We check it with perioprobe. and curated. Well, this case was not infected, but still the curettage was done. And this is where we want to place our implant. So always measure your root before you start, because you need to know what amount of length you'll be dealing with, how long an implant I'm going to place. This is around 12 to 13 mm of root length. So these are the two burrs. One is lance drill and one is Linderman drill. Lance is for single point entry. It is a pointed burr. It gives you great control. Lance drill is for reorientation. If at all I have gone wrong in my positioning, lance drill is a side cutting drill. So it helps me reorient my implant position. Pilot drill, we place pilot drill, first gone in with the lance drill, and at the moment I realized that I'm dealing with a real soft bone here, instead of drilling, I shifted to my periotomes. These are osteotomes. These are tatums or osteotome. They are tapered, they have a pointed tip, and they are also called socket formers. So why I love these instruments is it helps me preserve bone. Instead of drilling down it to the drain, I can pack it in the socket. I can use it. This is autograft. This is gold standard. So instead of drilling, I kept on expanding my socket with osteotomes. So this is how my final osteotomy looks. Now I'm placing this implant. This 4.5 by 15, I think, and it is a tapered plus. So the platform of this implant is 3. So it's a platform switch implant. Jumping gap of 2 mm is maintained. Dual zone grafting. This is dual zone grafting. So what we do in dual zone grafting, there are 2 zones in dual zone grafting. One is bone zone and one is tissue zone. So bone zone is the bone part, or apically to the head of implant is bone zone, and coronal to the head of implant is called tissue zone. So we place, my preference or my choice of graft here is, in bone zone I like to place either autograft or allograft, human origin. And in soft tissue zone, I like to place anything xeno, bovine, porcine. So this is how it is done. And the concept is overpack the graft. It is going to come out, even after 3-4 months, you will see it will come out buccally, but it doesn't matter. Yes, it does irritate the soft tissue at times. Then we place the peak abutment or temporary abutment. There are different abutments. Different companies supply different abutments. Some companies supply titanium temporary cylinders. Some supply peak. So in this case, peak abutment was used. This is the interim crown which was given to the patient. So requirement of interim crown is the surface needs to be really polished and clean. Why polished and clean? How do we clean? Polished surface attract desmosomal, polished and clean surface attract our hemidesmosomal attachment. If we don't polish it well, if it is a rough surface, there will be no attachment, or there will be partial attachment. If we don't clean it, hemidesmosomal love clean surfaces. So how do we clean it? We steam clean it. It is a handheld steamer. You just clean it for 30 seconds to 1 minute and you're done. And polish it with your composite polishers. The surface which will be in touch with your graft, which will be in touch with your soft tissue, needs to be really polished and clean. So this is how his interim looks like. I've deliberately kept here, if you can see on your screen, I've deliberately under contoured the buccal part of our crown, because there was a kind of recession, and I'm expecting a recession here. So what I did is I flattened the buccal portion so that tissue can creep instead of receding, and I have opened the contacts. There is a slight amount of diastema I have kept deliberately so that the papilla get breathing time. Then this is how you send the information to lab. You record your information. This is very important because lab If we use a slender or lean impression post and take conventional impression, so the lab doesn't get the right amount of tissue contour. They will have a collapsed tissue contour impression, and they will make a crown on that collapsed impression. So this is how we do it. Always check your impression post whether it is seating properly onto the implant platform or not. If it is not seating, we will have a discrepancy in our crown, and we will have discrepancies in processes. So this is how it comes off. And see, lab can now dye his lab guy can dye the impression and pour a soft tissue model over it, and he has all the information of this socket. And this is immediate post-op. Always check your seating of your abutment, seating of your crown. Always take X-rays. This is before and after, and this is post-op 3 years. So it's good results. Aesthetics is maintained, his soft tissue levels are maintained, and hopefully as you can see, he is not a very good cleaner. He doesn't maintain his hygiene, but I always call him after 6 months. So hopefully the things will be maintained. Second case is it's a case of premolar. So what we do is we follow the same protocol: atraumatic extraction, palatal osteotomy, palatal placement, maintaining jump gap of 2 mm. Just hold on. Oh, that's okay. So let's discuss the second case. She is a female. She is female, 70 years old, a diabetic patient, and she flies from US. Her kids are there. So, and she's a very frightened patient. She doesn't want. She doesn't let me do all. She's a transitional case. We have to do her full mouth. But what she does what she does is she gets one implant at a time. So this is premolar root stump. So I fabricated a stent for her, extracted the tooth out. This is my first drill going in, implant going in, maintaining the buccal bone or the distance, jumping distance. This is immediate placement, immediate extraction, immediate placement, and immediate loading case. So this is post-operatively, I think 48 hours. So this is stock abutment. In this case, what we did is we fabricated a long-term interim for her. What is a long-term interim? What I do is it's a metal coping on which we fire some acrylic onto it. So it gets the strength and it can last longer. Instead of a purely acrylic or a pure composite crown, I think this lasts longer. So this is for after 48 hours. Look the healing. If we follow proper protocol of extraction and atraumatic extraction, healing will amaze you. It is a so cement screw retained crown. We cement this crown outside the mouth and then place it and then clean it and polish it and place it. So and it is kept out of occlusion. The crown is kept out of occlusion, although her upper prosthesis is removal prosthesis, but because she will not be available here for the next say about 1.5 years, so I just kept it out of occlusion. This is another case. It is a very interesting case. This lady is around 60 years old. She's a diabetic patient and she comes from a family of 3 dentists. Her husband is a dentist, her son is a dentist, and her daughter-in-law is a dentist. So she comes in, so we extract this tooth of hers, and there is as you can see, there is some amount of granulation tissue attached to the tooth, but luckily the socket was intact. We curated the socket, placed the lance drill or drill in lingual direction. Always maintain your 3D position. This is how it looks. Always keep taking x-rays. In intraoperative x-rays are must. Pre-operative, post-operatives are absolutely required, but intraoperative x-rays are also. They guide you in certain situations where like in this case, it is a tight parking space. You never know when are you going to hit the adjacent root, tooth root. So it is good to have intraoperative x-rays. Implant placed as per the requirement, and as I didn't get the required torque, so what I did is instead of provisionalizing this case, instead of giving her something fixed here on implant, I just put gingival former and Maryland. I give her a Maryland composite Maryland bridge here. And as you can see, she required other. There are some other issues also. She required some perio to be taken care of and endo to be taken care of. So this is how our implant look immediately after placement. This is after 4 months. When she comes back, look at the healing. This is proper healing. There is good attachment onto the implant or onto the abutment surface, and this is after 6 months. This is another case. He is also around 65 years old guy and diabetic. This is palatal, this is upper premolar. That's buccal view. Out it comes. Atraumatic extraction is the key. It is what we have to follow. If we do atraumatic extraction, if we can take the tooth out atraumatically, maintain the buccal plate, most of our work is done. After that, it's easy. So intact socket, we drill the socket palatally. This is first drill. This is buccal view. This is intraoperative. Intraoperative is must. We should always know where we are going. What is the apical direction of our implant could be quite different as compared to coronal direction of implant. Be very careful. Finally placed. This jump cap was grafted. This is how it looks. Again, because I didn't get the required, normally I like to provisionalize. Plus, this is a premolar. I don't provisionalize generally. Second premolar, first molar and second molars, I don't like to provisionalize them. Even if I have to provisionalize my first premolar, I tend to provisionalize it like a canine. I just give the buccal surface for the aesthetic purpose. I don't properly put it under occlusion, and obviously it should not be done. People say it should be out of occlusion and everything, but still I prefer posteriors not to be loaded same day. So this is a wide gingival former. Jumping distance was grafted. This is post-op 2 weeks. See the amount of healing. If we respect biology, biology will respect us back and things will fall in proper place. Alternative to this classical way of doing implant in anterior socket, there is another technique called socket shield technique or partial extraction therapy. The next two cases which I am going to be discussing with you is of socket shield technique. So it is fairly a new technique wherein a very thin buccal portion of root structure is left in situ with its physiological relation to intact to the buccal plate. So what does it mean? It means that the root section of the periodontal apparatus is intact. That is, PDL is intact, vascularization is there, cementum is left behind, so bundle bone is there, alveolar bone is attached, and attachment fibers are there. They all remain vital and undamaged. So how do we do it? And why should we do it? The answer to why is it prevent post-extraction buccal bone remodeling. So prevent buccal bone loss and buccofacial tissue recession around an immediate placed implant is all of us have gone through this phase. We have seen it, we have faced it. So this is a good technique to avoid that. Steps to be followed. Crown is horizontally cut at gingival level. This is the first step. Root is bisected vertically such that the palatal section is removed along with the apex. So this is how a typical root comes off when you bisect it properly. This is how it looks. 2/3 of the root length is kept as shield. Okay. Then the shield is trimmed 2 mm below the bone level, and the thickness of shield should be around 1 mm. It should not be too thick. We don't need a too thick shield, because we want bone to form between our shield and onto the surface of implant, and that is what is going to give us osseointegration. So this is the pre-op view. She is like, I think 45-46 years old female, and same story. She got this done somewhere, and the tooth just came out. So after some sessions of, I think, cleaning, we started her case. So this is the pre-op situation. We already have loss of papilla because of over-contoured crown. So procedure is remove the gutta percha with your GG drills, then do mesiodistal cut, leaving 2/3 mm of root segment buccally, an extraction of palatal segment, thinning of buccal segment, trimming of buccal segment 2 mm below the cervical margin. This is absolutely important that we trim it below the level of cervical margin. Otherwise, even in partial extraction therapy, with the passage of time that we have seen, a segment of tooth starts to migrate out. So this needs to be done. And palatal osteotomy is it's with everything. With every case we have to do palatal osteotomy. Try to at least. So this is how we start. First we try to remove with GG drill the gutta percha. Then this is mesiodistal cut. Remove the buccal segment. Again, removing this buccal segment will absolutely require your periotomes. You cannot remove it with something else. It needs periotome. So first what I do is I take 15C number blade and I use it as periotome. So I try to sever the periodontal attachment with 15C, and then I shift on to my other periotomes. This 3.5 by 13 again, placed in proper 3D position. Palatal osteotomy, a jump distance is maintained, and this is how it looks. Again, whenever I am packing my graft, I always either use a cover screw to avoid my graft getting inside my implant, or gingival former. I find it much easier when I use gingival former, because then I can tuck along gingival former without being afraid of touching my implant with other metal instruments. So this is temporary crown in place. She was already told that her interim crown might not look as good as her adjacent tooth, because I need to work a lot in her case. There was recession. I wanted that papilla to fall back, and as I'll take you back some slides. Yeah, you can see there is flattening of bone, interdental bone. So getting this papilla again is a big issue. It's going to be a big task. So all this was discussed beforehand with her. So this was her temporary. She used it for, I think, 4-5 months, and when she used to come every month for her checkup. So I think in between we did some more addition incisally, and we made it look something better than this. So this is lab communication and shade selection. This is how it looks when you have togged your zirconia abutment in. Look at the stippling. Look at the tissue contour. Look at the health of this tissue. This can be achieved with our socket shield or partial extraction therapy. It is very predictable. Slightly, it has got a learning curve to it. Then everything has a learning curve to anything which is new. So this was the crown delivered to us, but we didn't like it. So the contour needs to be corrected. So we took the trial. This is corrected crown, and this is immediate post-op. I'm waiting for tissue to creep, and I'm hopeful there will be some amount of creep here. And this is 3 months recall. She's happy. I am happy with the healing and maintenance of this tissue. And this again, can this be done, or partial extraction therapy can be done only in anteriors? No, people are even trying it in molars. I have graduated only to premolars. I've never tried it molars, but maybe soon I will try it in some molars also. So this is the case of premolar, second premolar, very known patient of ours. So she walks in with a fractured premolar. This is the occlusal view. Again, the concept is same. Always bifurcate your crown. Always. So her palatal portion, this it is mesiodistal split was done. Very carefully, the palatal root is extracted. This is how it looks when it comes off. Thinning of the buccal plate was done. Thinning of the shield was done. Trimming of the shield was done. And this is intraoperative X-ray. Always take your intraoperative X-rays. So as you can see on your screen, the arrow points to the shield, and this is how implant is done. This is the implant is placed in its position, and gingival former. I don't like to provisionalize my posteriors for two main reasons. One is the cost attached to it. I need an abutment to properly provisionalize it, and that abutment is gone. It's gone forever. So if a patient is ready to pay for that kind of amount, I'm okay with it. Otherwise, I like to use gingival formers over and around my gingival formers. What I do is I place some composite and seal the socket with composite. So as I got 66, the ISQ value of this was 66. Anyways, I'm not going to load it with or temporize or provisionalize it. So this is how it looks. Around this is some composite and blue M gel. This is blue M gel also here. And this is her final prosthesis. Look at the healing. I'm not very happy with this prosthesis, but she's fine with it. I'm not very happy because what I did is I made a mistake here. So proper tissue contours were not recorded, and so proper tissue contours were not the proper information was not given to the lab, and this is not the lab guy's fault, it is my fault. I should have recorded the tissue properly, so the contour would have come much better. So this is how it looks finally. Posterior sockets. So posterior socket, again we can divide into type A, B and C. Like we have anterior classification, we have posterior socket classification also. So type B, type A socket is a socket where septum can completely contain our implant. It is a typical maxillary first molar socket. We do get some sockets like that in maxillary molars. So type B is septum is adequate for stabilization of implant, but containment is not, circumferential containment is not possible. Same as with type C. Type C may we have very less amount of septal bone or almost no amount of septal bone. So the stabilization is not possible. So stabilization happens in type C kind of cases. I like to use these Korean implants, wide body implants, like Dio has one, and I think other Korean companies also has got. They guys even have 8 mm wide implant also. Though I have never used 8 mm, I have only gone to 7.5. But these are the sockets where I would like to use something which can grab my bone circumferentially, which can give me initial stabilization from circumference, because in mandible, especially in mandibular molars, you cannot go deep down. There is inferior alveolar nerve down there, so we cannot go on excavating bone or go on drilling bone and put our implant in the depth. So this is the first case, and it's type B socket. So always, in multi-rooted teeth, we always trifurcate, bifurcate our our tooth, remaining roots. Why? Because it is easier to take out a single root individually if there is a curvature or anything, and we don't want to use extraction forceps as we used to use them. So trifurcate it. Periotomes, this is his pre-op X-ray. This is what I was talking about. I always use my 15 number C blade for my initial stabbing or for my initial severing of periodontal ligament space. Now periotomes, you never luxate with periotomes. You only wedge with periotome. If we luxate with periotome, we will lose our periotome. There are so fine blades periotomes available in market, and they are so costly and expensive, and we'll lose them. It might fracture inside between the periodontal space and the bone, and it is not a big deal. We can take that out. It can come out, but it is an expensive proposition. So we don't luxate it. We don't luxate with periotomes. So out comes these three roots: palatal, distobuccal, and mesiobuccal. This is the socket. See, this is a type B socket. Initial drilling. Always my first drill is always my lens drill, because of the point perfection it gives me. And again intraoperative X-ray, and I realize that I'm again dealing with some amount of soft bone, so osteotomes, no more drilling. This is 7.5 by 11 DO, I think, yeah, gone in. So it's placed. Now this is abutment, dual zone grafting. This is poncho. This is not a, this is the white material which you see around this abutment thing. Abutment is not a membrane. It is not a membrane. It is a collagen plug. So why I use it? I like to use it because of this purpose. See, when I tuck it in, it will resolve in 2 weeks, maximum in 2 weeks or 10 days. And now I can flow my composite over it without it takes away the fear from my heart that I will infect I don't want to touch my composite, flowable composite, to my graft. So it just takes away that fear from my heart. And this is how it comes off. We finally polish it, fill up the void again, polish it, polishing and cleaning. That's the thing. You always polish it up, clean it up, seal it. This is socket sealed. It has sealed all the circumference of extraction socket, and now the healing will take place. Again, so this is second case, type C socket, preoperative X-ray. Out comes the root. See the amount of granulation or the amount of tissue we have here attached here. Sorry. Okay, so septum is deep down. We won't be able to engage it properly. First drill, always check your 3D positioning. Always check your buccolingual position, mesiodistal position. If we don't do that, because this is the time, if we don't do it right now and we do it afterwards, once we have placed our implant, we really can't do much. We cannot reorient our implant once the whole osteotomy is prepared. This is an extraction site already an extraction site. The socket is anyways bigger than our implant, any implant available in the market. So as we are dealing with point precision here, always take this X-ray. Always take some time, take a breather, take a breath here and see your 3D positioning. As this is where we can still do some reorientation. Implant placed, properly torqued in its position, grafting, gingival former, and poncho. This is again a collagen poncho. Dry it and seal the whole thing. This is post-operative X-ray, and this is, I think, after 2 days, healing after 2 days. So this is uneventful. Your patient can brush on it, keep it clean, and there will be no inflammation. What you see right now is it's an inflammation post-operative 24 hours, 48 hours inflammation, which is good. And this is third case, again, mandibular molar. This guy, we did endo for him, and when pain went away, he also just went away. So one fine morning he called me up and said, "Doc, whatever you did to my tooth, the pain is back." So I called him in, and I see my temporary, and even now he didn't even get his final restoration. And forget about his crown. He didn't even get his permanent filling done. So this was the fracture. This is his occlusion, and we took the root out, and this was a difficult root to take out. So, but it came out anyways with periotomes. It come out. So now this is type A socket, where we have abundant, or not abundant, but enough amount of septum bone available. So I drilled. This is my first drill. Check your 3D position. In goes your implant, in goes your gingival former, and your graft, and composite sealed. Same as with this case. This is, I think this is my last case I'll be showing you guys. This is maxillary molar, and this is a typical case of class 1 socket. See the amount of interseptal bone. So first drill, then my periotomes, all-time favorite. I do use Densa a lot, but Densa burrs have a recurrent cost to them. These guys, you buy them once and you just forget. You don't need to replace them until and unless you just lose them somewhere. So final osteotomy done with osteotomes, and implant goes in. This is abutment for dual zone grafting or for grafting. And this is post-op 3 months healing. Look at the beautiful tissue around your implant. And if you have this kind of tissue, this kind of thick tissue around your implant, we can be sure that this is going to survive for a long time. Thank you guys, and hope all of us stay inside and remain safe with this coronavirus. I'm Dr. Azim Abbasi saying bye to you guys again. This is my email, azimtctc@gmail.com. If anybody wants to discuss anything, comment on my presentation, everything is welcome. Everything is welcome. Please feel free to be in touch. Thank you very much.